All right, everybody, come on in, come on in, come on in. For anybody new here, hi, I am Maggie. You may know me for my cooking channel. I make food and femininity content. Lucy and I are the founders of the Finishing School for the Modern Woman. We teach ladies of all ages how to embrace their femininity, elegance, and etiquette to be the best version of themselves. And usually on Wednesdays, we have a series called Ask Us Anything, where you all can get expertise from two older women with marriage and long-term relationship experience. We are going to start a new series today with permission, and we're going to get into it. But before that, Lucy, would you like to introduce yourself?
It's so good to be back. I think that I mentioned to you all that I was going on vacation to South Florida for the introverted heart, and actually for a full introvert. It was interesting. I loved spending time with my sisters and our significant others, but I'm so happy to be back. And I do have a channel that previously focused mostly on teaching Spanish, but now the new content that I want to um, post is basically more uh, it's more focused on cultural femininity, elegance issues, specifically for women after a certain age. I think that those that have been here know that I'm 57, and perspective becomes a little different once you've lived in this world for half a century. So I'm hoping to start posting more uh, relevant content in my channel soon, and I think that this conversation is going to be amazing.
I think so too. So sit back and relax. We are going to share with you all, like Lucy said, from our own lived experience. We are two older women. Lucy's 57, I am 48. So we are both women of a particular age, and we believe in the older women teaching the young. So we'll give you guys our perspective on what's been going viral on TikTok. But I do have one announcement for you all first. Like I said, Lucy and I teach the Finishing School for the Modern Woman, which is for ladies ages 16 to 60 plus. We just wrapped up our winter session. We're getting ready for our spring graduation. So very excited about that. And by popular demand, I am happy to announce that we are now enrolling for I need a drum roll please, Etiquette Summer School for Kids. So if you have kids from the ages of 5 to 15, we will be teaching a virtual etiquette Saturday school, July 2024. So the price is $100. It gets you 4 sessions. I am going to drop the link into the chat. We will talk more about that at a future date, but I wanted to let you all know, for anyone who's been saying, do you have anything for the kids? Do you have anything for the kids? We do, and we're going to talk about manners. We're going to talk about hygiene. We're going to talk about conflict. We're going to talk about all of these things for the kids, and the kids session will be co-ed. So if you have young boys or young girls, we will teach them in July. So I'm going to drop the link to that and you all can go take a look at it online. Before we begin, Lucy, do you have anything else to add about the summer school?
I think this is just going to be a wonderful opportunity to see how the younger generation look at life, their perspective, and us as the adults kind of maybe for those that are going one direction, maybe guide them a little bit to the other direction where they can be much more successful going that direction instead. This is going to be fabulous.
Yes, I am absolutely excited. All right, so let me give you all the background that I have on this story, and then we are going to review one summary video today. And then, like I said, Lucy and I are kicking off a new series with permission. I did send a Cash App to ReesaTeesa asking her permission to review this live. Okay, so you all know we have channels here. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and usually I'm making content, food and femininity content, and posting it. I don't really consume too much of it. However, last week when I was posting on TikTok, you all know whenever something is going viral, the algorithm will present it to you. And I started seeing videos of other people reacting to this series. And because my content is family friendly, I'm going to call it Who the Freak Did I Marry? I had no idea what it was, but I started seeing these videos of people responding to it, and I was like, what is this in my feed? So, of course, I started going down the rabbit hole, and I landed on a page for a lady here in Atlanta. Her name is ReesaTeesa on TikTok. And I watched the first video. It was a playlist of over 50 videos. And on the first video, she's kind of giving a summary of what her experience was, why she's making this playlist, and how it has impacted her. So we are going to review one of the summary videos. And what we're going to do, you all, in this series is we are going to look for the red flags and the teachable moments that can be helpful for all of us in relationships, especially young ladies who are dating. That is where our heart is. We are not going to mock. We are not going to ridicule. We are going to look at the lessons that can be learned from her experience and hopefully make a difference for someone who can avoid some of the mistakes that she has admittedly made. Lucy, what would you add?
One of the most fascinating things about this piece, and I'm hoping that you guys can tell me whether the sound is low or high so I can adjust it accordingly. Okay. Is that she from the beginning, she admits and takes accountability of some of those red flags that were missed. And that is something that we need to learn how to say, you know what? It was my fault. It was a screw up, and this is my lesson learned. Because it seems that the modern world has somewhat um, allowed us to not take responsibility for our own actions. And what I love about her is that all throughout she says, yes, I did this, and I know it was a mistake, but I still went ahead and did it. So that is something that's beautiful, and it makes me, for me, her credibility, it improves the credibility of what she is saying, because she's taking accountability of the things that she may have overlooked for whatever reason.
Absolutely. So I'm going to pull up TikTok and I am going to play one video. It's about a 10-minute video, but we're going to pause it. And anytime there's a teachable moment, we will give our perspective. Again, there before but for the grace, there go all of us, right? We have all made mistakes. And there's something that we can learn from our own life experience and from other people's. So if there's anybody here who has no idea what we're talking about, I'm going to play the video, but in a nutshell, there is a lady who met a man online. She started dating him in 2020, right before the lockdowns here in Georgia. They decided to quarantine together the relationship to move very quickly, and she ended up learning things about him that she did not know. So I'm going to let ReesaTeesa explain it in her own words, and then we will stop and give you all our teachable moments, because there are some flags that are probably obvious, but I think there's a lot here that, at least from an older woman's perspective, really stood out to me, and that's what I want to share. All right, so let me see if I can go over to TikTok and share my screen with you all. Did I close it? No, it's still there. Okay. All right. Let me mute myself, and I'll play from the beginning.
There's no sound. I'm not hearing a sound.
Oh, thank you so much for telling me that. So you're not hearing any sound. Let me make sure that I have it presented right. Also share audio. Let's try one more time. Okay, I'll just have to share the entire screen. So let me mute myself. I'm sorry.
But I'm gonna try. All right, backstory number one. We met in March of
We started hearing it, it stopped, and now we
now we
see
see
the screen that
the
says go
screen
live with
that
streaming
says March of
software.
2020 until
All
about
right, here I
April,
come. 1 second. Let me stop.
excuse me, June of 2021. Because
All
We
right,
can
one
hear it
minute, you all.
now,
I'm
we
so
can
but we
hear
don't
sorry.
it
see it.
now,
You could
but we
hear
don't
it?
see it. I kicked him out the
Okay.
house on his birthday.
I think I have too much open. 1 second. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Sometimes I see other channels playing the sound and not the video for copyright issues, but we know that she has given you the okay to use it.
Yes, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open it in the browser tab. I was trying to play it in the TikTok app, so I'm going to, so you heard it, but you can't see. So I'm going to pull it up actually in a tab and share it that way so everybody can hear and can see. But yes, I saw some of the comments, and I know a lot of people have very strong feelings about this. Some people think that it's, real or not real. I am not going to assume.
Find everything you need today? Yeah.
1 second.
Cool.
Okay, I was just saying I'm not going to assume wrong or not, real or not, but what can we learn from this? All right. Now let's see if I pull it up here and share the tab and share the audio and mute myself. And then Lucy, let me know.
Okay, so things that my pathologically lying ex-husband lied about. Backstory. I'm gonna try to get as much of this as I can into this video, because I hate when people say follow for part two, but I'm gonna try. All right, backstory number one. We met in March of 2020. Georgia got shut down, locked down 2.5 weeks later. We got married January of 2021, and we were divorced August of 2021. So keep in mind that this story is spanning March of 2020 until about June of 2021, because I kicked him out the house on his birthday. So we met online, Facebook dating and Hinge. I will never do online dating again. Facebook dating and Hinge.
Okay, so first, let me just make sure that you were able to hear and see. Okay, perfect. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. So let's go ahead and unpack that. So hopefully you all were able to hear and see. The first thing that struck me is she said they met, I believe it was March of 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020. And the pandemic changed, I think, everybody's relationship. Some people it enhanced and brought them closer. Some relationships did not survive the pandemic. Also, I think that some people formed relationships during the pandemic that they probably would not have otherwise. And if you watch this entire series, and I have watched all 52 episodes, she has said on her own that she did not want to quarantine alone, meaning she intentionally cohabitated with this man that she had met online because she didn't want to be alone. So that was one of the first things that stood out to me. And ladies, I get it. We all want companionship, or most of us want companionship. We want a man, right? We believe in traditional gender roles here. But when you move forward in a relationship out of fear or desperation or anything other than positive intent, I think you set yourself up to be blindsided. And these are her words. She missed the United Nations of red flags. I would think that was one of the first red flags that stood out to me. What would you add to that, Lucy?
I agree. I think that when you're working with a mindset of it's got to get done, I have to do it, you tend to um, put those pink colored glasses and try to see things in a more superficial way without seeing what is behind that shiny object that's in front of you.
Absolutely. The next red flag that stood out to me, and you all don't throw stones at me, we are two older women. Lucy and I were both married in our 20s. And I understand because I do consults outside of YouTube. The online way to meet people is very common now. I understand and I accept that. However, I still believe that if you are going to date online, you should do that in addition to meeting people out and about. And I know it's difficult, and I know, it's hard to just approach a stranger or be approached, but there's something that my man calls internet courage, and people can be whoever they want to be behind the computer screen. But when you meet someone in real life and they're actually going about their daily routine, you can see things, ladies, and you can pick up on things that someone could kind of gloss over in a picture or an image. But if the dots aren't connecting, it's really important to pump the brakes and observe. Ladies, we are vetted for marriage or long term. Likewise, we should be vetting. And, excuse me, part of your community, part of your network should help you kind of see who this person is. What do you know about him? What is the reputation? Likewise, men do the same thing about us. So I think if you exclusively date online, you can open yourself up to miss some things because you haven't seen that person in their day-to-day routine. What would you say, Lucy?
I agree. The online dating, to me, at this point, if you want to do something serious, I think that you should focus on meeting people person, one on one, person to person. The online dating has become now a business, and I don't think the initial vetting that used to be done a long time ago, let's say 10 years ago, is no longer there because right now they're looking at production and how many people can join without giving it the importance that it is. So I think it's up to us, ladies, if you're planning on wanting to meet someone, I think that you should focus more on the one on one, on going out, doing things, looking at people in the eye, smiling more, doing that social thing that unfortunately we missed it during the pandemic. It's you have to relearn those habits, how to flirt, how to look at someone, how to talk to someone, because this is what happens when you're doing an online thing. It's like you're doing artificial intelligence dating. You don't see everything that a person could give you um, on online and on paper. You have to be able to see them in person and speak to them and see whether you see those little, nature has built us to be able to see things on a person that are good and that kind of give us a weird thing in our stomach. So I think another thing is that online dating, I would say maybe just not even try it, because now your name is out there. It's going around. If you have a certain look, it's going to be shared everywhere else. I would think that if you're thinking about seriously meeting someone for marriage, just do the person to person thing. Forget about online.
I could not have said it better. And then the last thing that stood out to me, and then we'll continue on with the video. And thank you all. I see all of your comments in the chat. This happened in 2020. It is currently 2024. And if you watch the whole episode, and now, of course, I'm following ReesaTeesa on her socials, she has said that you saw in that last clip, she will never date online again. She has also said that she has not dated since. If you saw the timeline, they met, moved in, married, and divorced within the course of a year. Those are all very stressful events, and that doesn't happen in the real world. If you met someone today, the soonest that I would be comfortable saying we're getting married is 2 years, a year of dating and then another year of planning and meeting families and all of that. So she went through a lot out of her own mouth. She has said she now has PTSD and it's going to be very hard for her to trust again. So ladies, that's another teachable moment. When you allow yourself to have traumatic experience after traumatic experience after traumatic experience, it damages you. And then you are not as good of a candidate for the next potential mate if you had your eyes open, if you were looking with discernment. I'm not talking about researching somebody and going all the way down their past. I'm talking about not putting so much pressure that you're racing towards the finish line and you allow yourself to observe with a discerning eye. So I'm actually very sad that now she's scarred because this happened to her. And we've all been through heartache. We've all had relationships end. But I would say that the relationships we have should make us better in the sense that we are dating with intention, because I believe the purpose of dating is to determine if this is a match for marriage or long term, not just to occupy time, not just because we're bored, not just to go out on get dressed up and go to restaurants. And if the relationship unfortunately ends, then hopefully you have learned something about yourself and what you need to do better the next time. All right, so let's go back to the video. We'll play the next little clip and then we will stop and discuss.
I will never do online dating again. But that is where I met him. My tire blew on 285 just before Boulder Crest on my way to our first date. Clearly that was a sign. I didn't listen. But my tire blew and he met me at a gas station. We were supposed to be meeting at Cheesecake Factory, but because the tire blew, he met me at a gas station, fixed my tire, then took me to go get another tire, paid for it. And I just thought, oh my God, this is the beginning of a beautiful romantic story. Boy, was I wrong. So, things he lied about. Every morning he would get on the phone with his brother. We'll call his brother John. He would get on the phone with John and he would be like, hey, babe, John said good morning. And I'm in the bathroom doing my hair because I still had to go to work at this time. And so I would just say, hey, John, call out, hey, John. And, he would relay back and forth what I said to John, what John said to me. I never actually talked to John on the phone. And so he would be like, I can't wait for COVID to be over. Me and my girl, we're going to come see y'all. I can't wait for Auntie to meet her. Side note, his parents are deceased, excuse me. So he was like, I can't wait for you guys to meet her. Like, I know I'm gonna marry her. I know it. He said everything I wanted to hear. Love bombing 101. This man wrote the book. Bombing 101. This man wrote the book.
All right, so I want to take a pause here and let's unpack what she said. So you heard that on the first date that she had a tire go out. And if you've listened to the episode, he met her where her tire blew, took her to buy a tire. In her mind, this was like everything that I've wished for. She was so excited. And if you watch this series, another thing that she said is that he talked about money a lot in a showy way. Anytime they would have company or I think her family came into town, she would actually like warn people like, look, he's going to talk about his bank accounts. He's going to kind of show off. So ladies, here's another teachable moment. A man who is really who he is does not lie because he doesn't have to. He does not spoil in the beginning because he is looking at you with discernment, and because he has had to earn it, he expects you to earn it. So I think that's another red flag, ladies, when you are dealing with or in relationship with men that pour all out on you in the beginning. I think that's a warning, because to me, they're trying to kind of say, hey, there's nothing to see here, and distract you with all of the things. All of the gifts and all of that comes in time when there's a real relationship. But if you remember, this started on their first date and it never stopped after that. So that was a huge red flag for me. What would you say to that, Lucy?
I agree. And she talks about love bombing, and that is one term, psychological term that it's used for. I think that it's for the concept of narcissism. Usually, people that have that uh, uh, I don't know if it's an ailment or that psychological issue. They give you everything you want at the same time, all at once, to kind of overwhelm you with all that stuff. So you won't see you'll all see all these shiny moving things. So you to keep you from seeing the real personality behind behind the screen, but behind the scenes. So again, he tried very much from the beginning to give her all the beautiful things, to tell her all the beautiful things. That was probably that is something that, if you're dating someone, if it looks too good to be true, always think it is too good to be true. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has all that money and all that charm and all that stuff, because if they show it to you all at once, they're trying. For me, I would be very skeptical, trying to say what's behind all that. And that's where, when you start dating, you do have to come in with a skeptical eye. Not everything that the man says is what it is. You have to do your own research. You have to use your family members, your brothers, your uncles, your dads, to say, bring him over. Let's have a discussion with them. That's where your families and friends can come in to try to take those pink color glasses and say, well, he said something when he did something that wasn't really this. You may want to just look into that.
So many good points there. And so, yes, ladies, and we all love things, as women, we are the ones who receive and we show gratitude, and all of that is great. But just know this: when a man spends a lot of money in the beginning and doesn't require anything from you, I would say be skeptical, because oftentimes that means he doesn't plan to have you around for a long time. Men who are thinking for the long term, men who are vetting for the long term, are going to require something of you. They're looking for a wife to actually add value and be in a certain role in their life. And so they're not just going to give without you showing that this is who you are consistently. The other red flag, Lucy talked about having the family help you vet. And as older women, I feel we've gone a long way from that. Like Lucy just said, your dad, your brother, your uncle, yeah, come with me, let's have a beer. Or you have a family gathering. And the way I grew up, the men would be out on the barbecue or doing whatever, and the women would be in the kitchen. Men have a way of checking each other and being able to sniff some things out that a lot of times we women just blow past because we want it so bad. If you listen to this entire series, one of the things Teesa said is that she kept the relationship and all that they were going through from her family because she believed that, whatever happens in the relationship or happens in the marriage is nobody's business. And I understand to a point, but ladies, relationships are work, but they're not supposed to be so difficult that you feel in fear, that you feel like we all have that intuition, that sixth sense, that spirit, whatever you believe in. Trust that if something feels wrong or seems wrong, you need to tell somebody. And if you can't tell your family, a therapist or somebody, so you don't put yourself in a position where you allow something to continue that you could have nipped in the bud. So we will go to the next part of the video, but yes, another reason why you want to try and meet in person is because you can use your family and your network to kind of say, hey, what do we know about this person? All right, so let us continue.
So he talked to his brother every day. He talked to his friends every day in front of me. He would be on the phone laughing, cutting up, cracking jokes, telling them, hey, she said, hey, just having conversation like a normal conversation. I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't until he got kicked out of my house in June of 2021 that I found out every single phone call was made up. He was never on the phone. I don't know. Those of you who are watching, you're probably like, there's no way. Listen to what I'm saying. Everything I'm telling you can be verified. Every single phone call he ever had was made up. The phone calls where he called to pay his car off, made up. The phone call to the realtor when we were looking at houses, made up. The phone call to the bank for them to release the money for the house that he signed his name for, made up. Every phone call was made up. His brother, every day, he and his brother had not spoken since 2015 when his mother died. I found that out later on. He made up every phone call. He had no friends, but yet every phone call would be my friend this, my friend that. The second lie, his job. He told me when I first met him out the gate that he was a VP at his company. He had been transferred from California to Georgia, and he was in the process of, getting himself settled. He was looking to buy a house. His job was VP of a major condiment company. I won't say the name because I don't want to get sued. But he said that his job was VP at that company. It is fair to note he paid every bill. He paid all the bills. He gave me spending money. Like, even though we were quarantined, locked down in my little townhouse, again, this story was always he's trying to buy a house. So when
All right, so a lot to unpack there. Let's take another break here. So many things were said. So I'll start at the end. If you heard her, she said when they quarantined, they moved into her house. And I'm going to say it as an older woman, like my father told me, and how it used to be in the past, ladies. You don't live with someone you're not married to. Throw the stones if you want to, but especially having a man come live with you. There's so many things, in my opinion, that are out of order with that. I don't know a man that I respect that would be okay with that. And so if a man is just okay to jump into your space, I think that's a red flag. The other thing that she said, and if you watched the episode, he made up phone conversations. So he would be on the phone pretending that he was talking to someone. There was nobody on the other line. Now, I am not a doctor, but we know that mental illness is real. She has since updated and said that his family has reached out and they support her. He has been diagnosed with, I believe it's bipolar and schizophrenia. So there was a real diagnosis and the family knew about it. Another reason why you want to get to know the family as best as you can, or his network. If you heard her, she said he had no friends. And if you listen to the episode, he would name people like they were on the other line or like they were long-term friends, and these people didn't exist. So another red flag is trust but verify. I want to know. I want to see, who are your friends? Do you have friends from childhood, friends from college or whatnot? Do you have people who can vouch for who you say that you are? So those were a few flags that stood out to me. What would you say, Lucy?
Yeah, the fact that she was listening to those conversations, and a normal person will say, yeah, he's talking to someone. If you haven't been exposed to that type of mental agility that he's played with her, you would say it's okay. But that trust but verify thing, it's like, yeah, let me talk to him. Let me tell her this is it's something that when you have that kind of relationship, you do grab the phone and say, hey, and then that's where you hear the beeping sound or the drop sound, or there's no sound at all. So again, she was very, very incredibly trusting, and that's how he got her, because he knew that she was, all along, she was trusting him with all that little period of time, how he got to move into her house, and how he got her to believe that he was working on real estate things. So it's just fascinating. I do put myself in her shoes, and he would probably gotten me too with those make believe phone calls. That it's amazing um how far he took it, because she thought they were real conversations. And again, that network of friends, if she would have met their family members are going to say, well, you may want to just wait a little bit. You know, he's had drinking problems, or he's had this issue, just to warn you. If it's something that serious, the family members, good family members, will warn you and will throw little hints about, maybe you're moving too quickly, maybe you're doing things too quickly, wait a little bit. So yeah, that was a fascinating part about him, how he would make up those conversations. And you have to think, that's a very witty person to be able to make discussions or conversations with so many different people, to make her believe that he did have that network of friends and family and people around him.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that trust but verify. And you're right. My former mother-in-law, God rest her soul, she told me some things and I always put my hand up and put myself on the hot seat. You couldn't tell me anything. I'm a reformed modern woman, but I know what it feels like when we want what we want. But as an older woman, it's my duty, I believe, to say this is what I've done right, as well as this is what I did wrong. The other thing that stood out to me, when she met him, he was in a small studio apartment. Nothing wrong with that. And he was driving a small, reliable American car, whatever it was. Nothing wrong with that. When they got together, out of nowhere, he says he's a VP. She never met anybody or saw anything to confirm that. He did have a job. Turns out he drove a forklift. Nothing wrong with that. But he lied about so many things that he didn't have to. The other red flag for me is someone who's living in a studio apartment And then when you're ready to look for a house, the house that you're looking for is $700,000 and you want to make a cash offer on that. Ladies, that doesn't happen. You don't pay cash for a house. It just doesn't make good business sense. And if you don't know that, just look at the disconnect. You don't go from a studio apartment to a $700,000 home. My first home was a starter home. Then you go to the next little home. And then people that are older usually get their dream home. It's not the first home that you buy, a big, beautiful home. So be wary of that. If he doesn't already have that on his own, be wary of that. The other thing is, he was driving a small, reliable car, but took her to test drive BMWs and Audis and all these other luxury European cars. And that's great. But again, you don't go from 0 to 60, pun intended. You get a small, reliable car. When you can maintain that, then you move your way up. So that was another red flag for me. And she even said, if you watch this series, she had that feeling. She had that kind of feeling like something's not really right, but she wanted it so bad. She has admittedly said, I just said, no, he's paying bills. So, I don't have to pay anything. So it can't be, he can't be lying because he's able to do this. And again, mental illness is real, and the amount of effort that he put into crafting this persona that was not him. To me, it's terrifying, but we have to listen to that and look at the behavior. Does this make sense in the real world? Anything else to add to that one, Lucy?
I agree. It's kind of like, life is a puzzle. You start putting the pieces together. If the pieces start not aligning, there's something that to be questioned. There's a book I've mentioned before. It's called The Gift of Fear, and it talks about how we are built to have that sixth sense, that feeling in the gut, that really there's a reason why we have it. Back when the ages, and we have a T-Rex coming over and but wanting to we knew that feeling was something that wasn't right. We still have it for a reason. And she does talk about that feeling in her stomach, but she still went along. Once you start feeling that feeling in your stomach over and over and over again, that is where you put the brakes on and say, wait a minute, let me do some research and start looking, and have my dad talk to this guy, or have my uncle, my brother, take him out fishing or do something to see if they catch the same thing I do.
Absolutely. All right. So let us continue to the next little bit.
We got together, it was, we need to buy a house together. Like, this is forever. We're going to have a family. Let's go ahead and find a house. So the lie is that he was a VP at his company. And he maintained that lie every day. Truth is, he was a temp. He called me from work all the time. I may have to make a different video to explain how he was able to lie with the work stuff. So he would call me and he would pretend to reprimand employees who couldn't see that he had a Bluetooth thing in his ear. He would pretend to reprimand them in front of me. He would pretend to take phone calls from the company president who needed his help on something. He forged emails that he showed me from the company president asking him, we need to get this up and running. We need to do this project. We need to do that. It is scary how brilliant he was and how much energy he put into the lie. But he was a temp. He was a temp forklift driver. There's nothing wrong with a forklift driver. But he was pretending to be a VP. Third lie, housing. He told me he was looking to buy a house. We got together and we started looking at houses. I found a beautiful 5-bedroom, 6-bath house in Smyrna, Georgia that was gorgeous. It was brand new construction build. And I love the house. The house was listed for $699,000. He showed me paperwork from Chase Bank saying that he was approved for a mortgage for $750,000. Yeah. I watched as he put in an all cash offer on this $699,000 house. I watched him sign his name to a legally binding document for an all cash offer. The reason why the house fell through was because the builder did not want to finish the basement. We were requesting that the basement get finished. He did not want to, so he declined our offer and took the offer of another couple who didn't need the basement finished. That's the only reason why that house fell through. I see now where God's grace protected me, because, well, it really protected him, because legally I was not his wife, so I was not on the mortgage for that home. So, third lie had to do with housing. Fourth lie had to do with baby. So I got.
All right. So let's do one round and then we will close it out with the last round. So a couple of things there. We've already talked about the house and we've talked about the job. One of the things that she said, if you watch the entire series, which really broke my heart, is that he took her to all of these places to almost watch her get excited about something that he knew he was not actually going to provide for her. And I think that that is evil beyond. But that being said, the other takeaway, ladies, and the other red flag that you can see here, are you all noticing how all of the lies start to ratchet up the longer you let this go on? We teach people how to treat us. And just like a child, you got to nip that bud in the beginning. For me, a lie says something about your character, and that is a deal breaker for me. Tell me the truth, let me cry through it or what I got to go through. But if you lie to me, and if you lie over and over, especially about something that you don't have to lie about, this says this is just who you are. So I am allowing you to make up stories and say whatever you want to say. And as the story goes on, the lies just became more and more incredulous. And now she's in a position where she's embarrassed. She's basically saving face and just kind of going through the motions, and it is eating her alive inside. So ladies, yes, relationships are work, but you need to know what your deal breakers are. And if someone's character does not meet the standard, I say you leave them where they are, because you cannot change them and it will get worse if you allow it. What would you say, Lucy?
Yeah, and the fact that she was protecting her ego also by protecting him and not sharing those little weird things that she felt in her stomach, that's really interesting. She was trying to protect someone that was creating this make-believe world just because she didn't want to show that she was wrong. Probably her friends would have said, you know, we saw it from the beginning. We were trying to, tell you, and that's why she kept it to herself. Sometimes secrets are not a good thing when you know that something inside is not working for you. Have that one particular person where you share, yeah, you know what? He said this, but what he did was this other thing. Just have that one person where you can confide that information, because again, you need to see that unbiased perspective. You getting all that love bombing and all that information, yeah, it's a pretty world, but too much of a pretty world is not realistic. And that is something that we as women, we are sold the Disney world, the Disney, happily ever after story. But life is not like that. Life has their ups and downs, and people are not that perfect. They're not that perfect to have that amount of cash money available to buy a $750,000 home. It's not normal. It's not something that happens every day. And that is something that that you need to be, again, very wary of.
All right, so we'll go back to the video, and I see you all in the chat. Some of you all feel very strongly that this is not true. Again, I am not going to debate whether it is or is not true. We're going to take it on face value, and my goal is to see what we can learn from this. I have no reason not to doubt her. And again, I reached out to ReesaTeesa to ask her if we could do this series. So let us continue. Thank you all for your feedback.
Got pregnant, lost the baby. I was sad at the time. I am not anymore. But lost the baby, had to have a D&C. When I was in the hospital, the doctor called him to let him know, you know, she'll be discharged, because again, this is COVID, so you could not go in the hospital at the time when I had the surgery. So the doctor called him and said, you know, she's going to be released in an hour and a half. He pretended to be his own executive assistant. And so he said, you know, Mr. James is in a board meeting, but I'm his executive assistant, David. How can I help you? You can let me know what's going on. Obviously, the doctor wouldn't do that. So she just said, you know, please let him know that Miss So-and-so will be ready for pickup in an hour and a half. He told the doctor he's in a board meeting until about, for about another 30 minutes, and then he'll be on his way. I should have only been in the hospital for an hour and a half. I was there for 3 hours. Because again, he was a temp forklift driver, so he couldn't get off work. But I didn't know that at the time. So those are just some of the things that my pathological lying ex-husband did. There's so much more. I have severe PTSD. And I know it's my fault. I know that I did not trust myself. I did not pay attention to the United Nations of red flags. I did not pray. And I am paying the consequences for that. So there's nothing anyone can say to me, girl, you was dumb. I was desperate. I wanted to be married. I wanted a family. And I thought it was my turn. And instead, I got pulled into something my brain could not even comprehend. And guess what, guys? What I just told you, it's only 5% of the story. So yeah, let me know if anybody knows somebody at Lifetime. And also, if any of you got any sort of gift cards for Stella Rosa Black, I'll take those as well. That's my story.
All right, so that is the end of the video. I want to do another recap on this last part on red flags and things we can learn. And I'd love to know what you all think in the chat. If you would like Lucy and I to take this episode by episode, it is a full telenovela, but we will, if you all think it would be helpful, to break it down and someone said something about Reaction Wednesdays, and share from our older woman's perspective what other red flags are there. So I am glad, I'm so sad that this happened to her, but I am glad that she is taking accountability for it. And she said that she missed a lot of red flags. Her own words, she said she was desperate. And I think that is the biggest thing, you know, when Lucy and I talk to, as older women telling the young, if you want relationship, if it is a priority for you, make it a priority while you have your youth, your beauty, and all of that leverage. She has said in the series when she got pregnant that one of her concerns was that it was going to be a high-risk pregnancy because of her age, as well as other factors. So I don't know her exact age, but to me that says that she's over 35. She had never been married before, never had any kids. So now, like I said, your hair is on fire and you're moving in a way with such urgency that you're just kind of avoiding everything because you want to get married. The way she described the proposal, it was basically like, here you go. It wasn't something that you look forward to with joy. And I'm sad for that. she also said that she avoided a lot of, what her spirit was telling her. And it's there for a reason. Like Lucy said, we have evolved, if you will, to be able to discern different things. And we get that sense. And we shouldn't just kind of discount that, because you end up in a situation, hopefully not like this, but she's taking responsibility for thinking that now it's my turn, and so I'm going to make it happen. And ladies, we can't make it happen. Men control relationships, and so you want to diligently vet and be vetted, and make sure that you enter into a relationship that you would be proud of, and you wouldn't have severe PTSD 4+ years later. What would you add, Lucy?
And this is something that from now on it's a good uh, lesson to learn, to make sure that you do involve the men in your lives whenever you're trying to bring in someone else into your world. Again, before we had families, we had all of these gatherings over the weekend, over celebrations where you could bring that one significant other. So to be, what we say, judged by the elders in the home, especially the men. And we no longer do that. I'm not sure why we're not doing it. And that goes back to, again, the destruction of the nuclear family and how all of those things have not worked to our benefit. We need to get back to some of these traditions that were put in place for a reason. Again, our men in our lives play an incredibly important role when we women choose things by just using emotion. They look at the logical side. They look at things that we as women miss. And we see with her example how many flags she chose to miss because she was desperate to get into a relationship, because she wanted that companionship so badly that she chose not to raise the hand and say, wait a minute, something is wrong here.
All right, so Lucy, I see a lot of comments in the chat. I know we usually wrap up. Are you okay to take a few questions?
Sure. I think I told my husband that tonight he's eating a ham and cheese sandwich. So I can make that in 5 minutes. So I think we can.
Okay, so I see you all are asking if we'll take some questions. So if you have questions that you want Lucy and I to answer from an older woman's perspective, please just put a Q in front of it and then put it back in the chat, or I'll drop the link in case anyone wants to chat. I do want to address one last thing. And, if I may, the elephant in the room, because I have struggled with this as well. At the end of the stream, jokingly or not jokingly, she said if anybody has any Stella Rosa Black, which is an alcoholic beverage. And if you watch the series, there were times when she said it would get so bad that she would just kind of drown herself in her drinking. And ladies, part of being a feminine woman is self-care, and that is taking care of yourself. It is obvious, and she has said this, after this marriage debacle, she went and got tested for everything because she realized she didn't know who she was married to. And her comment there about, I wasn't actually married to him, he changed social security numbers. It is so deep. So if you all want us to break this down week by week, Lucy and I will. But she said she went and got tested for everything, and everything came out good except for she needs to lose weight. And like I said, you all have seen my struggle with this. But I will say, as a heavyset or a plus size woman, when you aren't the best version of yourself, and that can be age, if you haven't prioritized relationship, and then letting yourself get to a point where your health is not a priority, and then you're binge drinking on top of that. And again, no judgment here, but I remember the late great Kevin Samuels, and Lucy and I both have a connection to Kevin Samuels. He said, you know, we attract what we are. Nobody deserved what happened to her. But when you show up in a way that says, I don't put myself as a priority and I'm, in her own words, desperate, people who are looking for someone to take advantage of, they can sniff that out, ladies. If you are prioritizing your self-care, if you know what your boundaries are and you stay on that and you say, you know what, I'm sorry, this is not going to work for me. I need someone who's going to be honest. I wish you the best. And you exit, then they take that foolishness somewhere else and you're able to rebound more quickly. So I just wanted to share that, you know, as someone who has also struggled with weight, but, you know, I hope and pray that she's able to enjoy her life moving forward. But I wanted to address that because her physical condition, I think, was a concern for her as well. What would you add to that, Lucy?
I agree. He probably saw that as a weakness, and he knew that he could get away with some of that stuff because she wasn't feeling her best self. I bet you that if she lost and she got to the weight that she thought she looked wonderful, she would not take any nonsense from the beginning. So I think, again, there are people that are looking for those opportunities to pounce on the weakness, and and he found it with her, unfortunately.
All right, so let's take a few questions. I see this question from Next Level, serious question. What woman sits on the phone while the man is at work all day taking work calls? She says, I was desperate. I'm not sure if I'm following the question, but you know, she said that he pretended to be on the phone. I, like Lucy, you know, to me, like if someone's on the phone, you can kind of hear something, or, you know, kind of say, hey, so and so, and, you know, oh, put me on speakerphone, or, you know, I'm not defending anything, but this relationship met, moved in, married, divorced, well, married, kicked out, and divorced all within the course of a year. So it moved lightning fast. And so, you know, she just either didn't see or didn't want to see a lot of things. And, you know, hindsight is 2020. And she's sharing that hopefully we can all learn from it. What would you add to that, Lucy?
And I agree. And the reason some people work in that lightning fast concept is because they want to get as much of you, whether it's financial, emotional. Um, they want to get as much in such short period because they know their time is limited. They know that eventually you will find them out, and that's why they have to do things so quickly so they can, pull the wool over your head, and then you, a year from now, you're saying, what happened? And they do it, it's an MO that they do it on purpose. They know what they're doing, and we're seeing the consequences of somebody that takes on a relationship from beginning to end so quickly.
Yes, and I'll just say one more thing. We'll start to wrap up. If you all have any other questions, I'll scan back through. You can put a Q and just repost it if we missed it. I did want to talk about the pregnancy. You all have heard Lucy and I talk about waiting until you are married before you have children. There is so much talk about, unwed mothers, and, as a divorced mom of two boys, you want the intact family, believe me. But you all have seen her story. She met a man in March online, and I think she said within 2 weeks of meeting him, the shutdown in Georgia because of the pandemic, and because she didn't want to quarantine alone, she moved him into her house. We're all adults here. You know what happened. She found herself pregnant. Fortunately or unfortunately, the pregnancy did not survive. But if you listen to the series, when she found out she was pregnant, it really bothered her because that's not what she wanted. She's a woman of faith, and she said that she knew it was wrong to be pregnant and unwed. So what did that do? It sped up her desire to get married even more quickly, because now you're in a situation where you know you shouldn't have done this. And so there were already red flags before, but because you've put yourself in this position, now you're pressuring even more that we need to get married. And there's nothing wrong with having, a justice of the peace marriage. But if you listen to the entire series, if you all want us to break it down, he basically was like, all right, fine. And they went and got married. And I think she said, came home from the courthouse and got ready to go to work either the same day or the next day. And, those of us who are girls who think about, the wedding that we have, not that it has to be something extravagant, but you can tell that the circumstances around it, it just went from bad to worse. So again, ladies, another red flag there. Do things in order when it comes to marriage and children. What would you add to that, Lucy?
I agree. And Next Level has another question. He, I don't know if it's a he or she. They ask, what does he have to gain from this? Um, for me, nothing but from the relationship. I think that he was planning on gaining financial. Maybe he has no credit score. If she had a good credit score, they could join forces and get, the house. She already had a house, a little, I don't know, a smaller house. So again, there is gain from him getting into that situation. Now, there's no gain after the fact because the one who's gaining is her. Because now I think she's going to onto TMZ even. So this has earned her a lot of social media talk, and probably she's going to get a book deal or something to make it happen for her. So again, that's a very good question. He didn't gain anything from the aftermath, but if this is a true story, he was earning a lot during that relationship, especially financially.
Yes, and unfortunately, like Lucy said, this has gone completely viral on TikTok. If you all want to watch the whole series, I encourage you to do so. And I believe I did link it in the description. And thank you, Reesa, for giving us permission to cover this. I'm drinking out of my Paris mug because I know Paris and London is near and dear to your heart. Her ex-husband has even come out and made a TikTok, and it's just turning into such a circus, and we are not here for the foolishness. I definitely want to learn from what could be helpful for others. So yes, there will probably be book deals and movies and all of that. But at the end of the day, for me, with relationships being a priority, I'm still very sad that 4 years after the fact, it's still so hard for her to speak about, and she has not dated since, and she still says that she is traumatized, and it will be very difficult for her to ever trust again. Ladies, that's not how we should exit relationships. We should only enter into relationships that we see our marriage or long-term potential, if that's what you want. And then if it unfortunately ends, you exit with grace, learn what you can get better from it, and then move on, hopefully quickly. Bella says, does Reesa know about my consults? I have no idea, but I think she needs so much more. I am not a doctor. I'm just an older woman with perspective, but I did want to ask her permission to cover this. So thank you, Reesa. I appreciate that. And yes, you all, I see the questions here. A lot of questionable decisions. Some of you all don't believe that this is true. That's, neither here nor there. But assuming that it is true, I wanted to take the lessons and teachable moments from it. As far as the question of what could he gain from it, this is who he is. And after Reesa went live, his previous wives, because there were plural, and previous girlfriends have now started to come out of the shadows saying the same thing happened to me. So again, remember what I said, ladies, about men who, or even people, men, this could happen to you. People will observe you and see, kind of test to see how much they can get away with. And if it's an opportunity where they can plant themselves and wreak havoc, if that's just who they are, they're going to do it to you or the next person that allows it. So again, ladies, choose wisely. Choose wisely. All right. So, I think that's all. I know there's some stuff that I can't answer. I'm glad you all found some helpfulness in this. But just remember, ladies, men who are serious about relationships, they build their lives to a point on their own as far as they can go, and then they choose a suitable woman to take it to the next level. So if a man does not have a home and all of a sudden when he's with you now he's ready, or if he doesn't have whatever type of car but now he's with you and he's ready, just be wary of that, because part of being a man, and I am not a man, I am a boy mom, but what my ex-husband teaches the boys and other men that I know, men have to do things on their own. It's part of their learning and maturation experience. So if he has not accomplished those things on his own and he is dependent on you, I would argue that that is not the man that you want for marriage or for long term. Next Level wants us to continue. All right, so we will continue. We are with you all each week Wednesday, so we'll switch it up and we'll do our reaction Wednesdays, and we'll start breaking this down episode by episode and see what we can learn and teach from it. Any final words, Lucy?
One final word is that notice that the skeptical ones are the men for the most part. So again, this, because I listen to all the men in my world, this makes me wonder, do they have a point? So again, it's one of those things that we emotional women, we take it as it comes. We take all the information. Oh yeah, this is happening. But the men are the ones saying, what if this is this? What if? So just like the take heed to the message. I love that woman. She is amazing. She has a channel, take heed to the message, and she does bring some truths out, and that is the name of her channel. But yes, we gotta take heed to the message that the men are saying. A lot of men are saying this sounds a little iffy, and I love that skepticism from our men.
Yes, thank you, men. We see you, we feel you, we hear you. And I remember one part of the episode where she said that her father or grandfather said something. Yeah, he didn't really look. We'll get into it, y'all. He said he was a professional football player. Turns out that was another lie. And you can see how the men sniff things out. Men know the ones in their circle that are about business, and they know the ones in the circle that are not adding value. And an important part of a man, Kevin Samuels talked about it, is that wolf pack. And part of it is for them to challenge each other and sniff out the weak ones and push them out so that the pack can get stronger. So we'll break this down. We will do this series for you all. Again, the Etiquette Summer School for Kids is now open for enrollment. I put the link in the description. I'll drop it one more time. If you all have children from the age of 5 to 15, we would love to teach them Saturday school in July. All right, so you all are still going in the chat, but we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We will see you all next week as we continue our series. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.
Adios.